The vast, unforgiving wilderness has always held a magnetic allure for adventurers and scientists alike. But these remote corners of our world, beautiful as they are, can also be theaters of profound and unsettling mystery. Places where the line between scientific understanding and the inexplicable blurs, leaving behind questions that echo through time. Tonight, we venture to the desolate, ice-scarred coast of the Norwegian Sea, to an uninhabited island known to the few locals on the distant mainland as Svartisen Isle, the Black Ice Isle. It was here, in the late autumn of 1978, that a small meteorological research team vanished, leaving behind a single traumatized survivor and a chilling enigma that defies easy explanation. Dr. Aris Thorne, a pragmatic meteorologist in his late 40s, led the expedition. His team was small but highly skilled. Lena Hansen, a bright, ambitious postgraduate student in her early 20s. Eric Johansson, a grizzled, experienced field technician of 50. And Sofia Petrova, a quiet, intense radio communications expert. Their mission was to deploy and monitor a new array of automated weather sensors on Svartisen Isle, a place chosen for its unique atmospheric conditions despite its reputation for sudden, violent storms and an almost palpable sense of isolation. They arrived by a chartered fishing trawler in late September, the Arctic air already carrying the bite of the coming winter. The island was starkly beautiful, gray rock, patches of hardy moss, and the ever-present glacier calving into the frigid sea. For the first 2 weeks, the operation proceeded smoothly. The sensor array was established, data began to flow, and the team settled into a routine within their prefabricated, insulated research hut. Eric, with his decades of experience, ensured their generator and heating systems were robust. Sophia meticulously managed communications with the mainland, her daily reports concise and professional. Lena, under Dr. Thorne's guidance, eagerly absorbed every detail of the fieldwork. Then the reports from Sophia began to hint at anomalies. Not in the weather, but in the radio transmissions themselves. Strange, intermittent static, almost like whispers, would bleed through the frequencies. Sophia initially dismissed it as atmospheric interference, common in these latitudes. Eric, however, who had spent more time in remote outposts than anyone, grew uncharacteristically quiet, occasionally glancing out of the hut's small reinforced window as if expecting to see something. He mentioned old fishermen's tales, stories of the drogger, restless spirits of the drowned, said to haunt these lonely shores. Dr. Thorne, a man of science, scoffed. On the evening of October 12th, the weather took a dramatic turn. A storm, far fiercer than forecast, slammed into Svartisen Isle. Hurricane-force winds shrieked around the hut, and the sea roared like a tormented beast. Inside, the team double-checked their moorings and hunkered down. The generator, a reliable workhorse until now, began to sputter. Eric, despite the raging storm, insisted on going outside to check it. Lena later recounted that was when the true horror began. Eric was gone for perhaps 20 minutes. When he stumbled back inside, his face was ashen, his eyes wide with a terror she had never seen. He wasn't just cold, he was different. He began to mumble incoherently, swatting at the air as if plagued by unseen insects. Then he started screaming, a raw, animalistic sound that was barely audible over the tempest. Dr. Thorne tried to calm him, but Eric thrashed violently, clawing at his own face and throat, drawing blood. Within minutes, Sophia, who had been frantically trying to raise the mainland on the radio, let out a choked cry. She too began to exhibit the same terrifying agitation, her body convulsing. She grabbed a heavy wrench and started smashing her precious radio equipment, muttering about the voices, the terrible voices. Lena, paralyzed by fear, watched as Dr. Thorne, his scientific composure, shattered. backed away from his colleagues, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. He then let out a low moan, clutched his chest, and collapsed. It was at that moment, with Eric bleeding and writhing on the floor, Sophia a wreck amidst her destroyed equipment, and Thorn unmoving, that Lena's survival instinct kicked in. She didn't understand what was happening, only that an invisible, malevolent force had invaded their sanctuary. She ripped open the hut door and fled into the blinding, freezing storm. 3 days later, when the storm had finally abated, a Norwegian Coast Guard helicopter, alerted by the prolonged radio silence, landed on Svartisen Isle. They found Lena Hansen unconscious, half buried in a snowdrift a kilometer from the hut, suffering from severe hypothermia and frostbite, but miraculously alive. The scene inside the research hut was one of utter devastation. Dr. Thorne lay dead, apparently from a massive heart attack. Sophia Petrova was found contorted, her nails broken and bloody, signs of a violent struggle against an unseen assailant, or perhaps herself. Eric Johansen's body was just outside the hut's entrance, his clothes partially torn off, his face a rictus of unimaginable terror, frozen in the act of trying to crawl away. There were no signs of an intruder, no animal tracks other than those of Arctic foxes. Lena Hansen was airlifted to a hospital in Tromsø. Her physical recovery was slow, but her psychological scars ran far deeper. Her account of the events was fragmented, laced with the raw terror of her experience. She spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread preceding the chaos, of the air feeling thick and wrong, and of the terrifying sudden descent into madness of her companions. The official investigation was brief and, to many, unsatisfactory. The cause of death for Thorne was cardiac arrest. For Sophia and Eric, it was listed as hypothermia, exacerbated by acute psychological distress. The strange symptoms, the bleeding, the self-mutilation, were largely glossed over as consequences of extreme duress and the disorienting effects of severe cold. But this explanation never sat well with those familiar with the case. The team were all experienced, well-equipped and mentally sound individuals. What could have triggered such a rapid and violent breakdown in not one, but 3 of them, almost simultaneously? Several theories emerged. Some pointed to the possibility of ergot poisoning, a fungus that can grow on rye and other grains, known to cause convulsions and hallucinations. Had their food supplies been contaminated? Toxicology reports, however, were inconclusive, hampered by the delay in recovering the bodies. Others, recalling Sophia's complaints about radio interference, wondered about infrasound. Could the unique geology of Svartisen Isle, combined with the violent storm, have generated low-frequency sound waves capable of inducing intense fear, nausea, and even organ damage? Studies have shown infrasound can indeed cause such physiological effects, but to trigger such extreme reactions in multiple individuals so quickly remains highly speculative. Then there were the more outlandish theories. Had the team stumbled upon a secret military experiment? Or were Eric's hushed warnings about the Draugr more than just old wives' tales? The island, after all, was named for its black ice and a sense of brooding desolation. Could some ancient, territorial entity have been disturbed by their presence? Lena Hansen never fully recovered. She shied away from public life, her memories of that night a torment she carried in silence. She never offered any further clarification, perhaps because she herself had no answers. The Svartisen Enigma, as it came to be known, joined the grim roster of unexplained wilderness tragedies, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most remote places on Earth guard secrets that are not meant to be understood by the human mind. The black ice of Svartisen Isle holds its silence, and the wind continues to whisper its chilling, unanswered questions across the barren rock.